We're making an ad.
Napping ad.
This is where I think if we're doing it right, Alec Baldwin comes in. He says a couple things. He listens to the podcast every week.
Yep.
Has he been canceled? Wait, is Alec Baldwin the one who killed somebody? I hear that Gary Sinise is free.
Oh, okay, great.
He hasn't worked since 2020.
So, what would be the script that we would have Gary Sinise say for the Napping Through Happy Hour podcast?
Listen to this damn show. Damn it.
The Napping Through Happy Hour podcast brought to you by Geekscape.
Real life, real drama, real time.
I'm Gary Sinise.
That's the ad. That's the ad. That's the ad.
We're here to entertain you. We'll sing your songs.
Hey there, are you obsessed with things that happened before your time? Well, if you are, join me, the host of Before My Time, Kelsey Laurie, to discuss the wonders of the yesteryears that we weren't around to enjoy ourselves. You can find us on all podcast platforms.
Dixieland's a playing. Soon you'll be swaying, so come on, sing along.
Everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Horror Movie Night, where we're discussing Devilfish, aka Monster Shark, a movie that came out, I guess, in 1984, but on Wikipedia it refuses to give you a year, which is weird.
It's the Italian way.
It really is. Did you catch the other names?
No, I just saw Devilfish and Monster Shark.
I had a really good time telling Megan the other fish monster movie names for this. So it's Monster Shark actually comes up as Monster Shark first, but I knew it as Devilfish. Monster from the Red Ocean, Devouring Waves, and Shark, Red in the Ocean. And Megan gave me the nastiest stink face when I read the final one. And she was like, "Oh, that's awful." I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I was last in the list, baby."
Devouring Waves is a great name.
It's actually a really good. I feel like
Waves.
Devouring Waves is a much better title, but it also, they were really, this is the most Italian creature feature I think we've ever done. It just feels,
it just feels, well, for
is.
starters,
I
I
think it
just
is.
realized that I have two different notes back to back that end with the word insane in all caps.
I have a lot
So
of
that's a good
exclamation
sign.
points as well.
That's a very good sign. No, this is very Italian. There's a lot of underwater fighting. Oh, and I thought I heard that. Although I thought I had a conch shell up to my ear, and I thought I heard the sound of a can cracking. Scott.
Cinderland's Beer Company, Squish Inc.
The Black IPA. You
I
got
haven't
two
had a
dark
black
beers
IPA back to back.
back to back. That's fantastic.
How about you, Kyle?
It's pretty good.
Zero Gravity, Jaws. Just Jaws.
Perfect.
Which, as I mentioned on the last episode and was having a little bit of
Could've gone
trouble,
either
like
way.
Jaws would have been very clear for that, but I in the order that we were recording these, sorry guys, we don't record them the day before. I just wanted something a little crisper, and this is more fish after boats and doing more Jaws related stuff, even though the Blood Beach was feeling Jaws. But and it's just a nice crisp pilsner as we get into summer.
So the fact that neither of us did Budweiser's in the pull tab cans is very disappointing.
Jesus, Scott.
Yeah. All right. So let me say something about the difference between Devilfish and Blood Beach. For me, anyway, is I think Devilfish certainly has higher highs.
Yes.
But I think that Devilfish has a stronger lull for me.
Really?
And what I mean is, like, I think Devilfish starts fucking at a 10 or an 11. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like it loses steam. And then, like, at the end, I think it picks it up again. So let me explain it like this, in terms that most of our listeners can understand. In the world of fast food burgers, I have always
What are you
said,
saying about our listeners, Matt?
listen, hear me out, Mr. President. Or former president, sorry. I always end up being Team McDonald's. Now, if you ask me if McDonald's has the best burger, the answer's no. But what I think McDonald's has is a guarantee of consistency of burger quality. Whereas, like, a Wendy's or a Burger King burger can sometimes be one of the best burgers I've ever had, and then other times the exact same location will serve me the biggest pile of dog shit burger I've ever had. Mm-hmm. So, to me, Blood Beach's consistency is that of McDonald's. It hits its spot and it never breaks its pace. It keeps the train on the tracks. Whereas Devilfish hits so hard out the front that when we start to get into the like espionage, like secret shit,
See,
and like that's where I lose it for me.
That's what does it for me, for sure.
You know, like this movie, that's what I said,
not
it's
with
so
you,
Italian. No, like I
So
could not
Italian.
disagree more with Matt. I felt that but I
Your
also
fast
don't
food
like
thing makes sense to
procedurals.
me, but it's wrong in comparison to the movies.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I don't
would-
like procedurals though.
Everything
so
that I just said,
a
though,
thing.
keep in mind, I will
big time.
sooner rewatch Devilfish / Monster Shark than I'll watch Blood Beach, because it's just
But
across the board more fun, but it exhausts me. I was like, when I started this movie, because this was the first time, well, it may have been a first time watch for me. I don't know. I thought I watched this on Netflix when it was there like years ago.
What?
Like 10 years ago, I think
When
it was
would
on
this
Netflix.
have ever been on Netflix? That is insane. That is a false memory. No
Well,
way will I believe that.
Or it's possible that Netflix at one point was carrying the Mystery Science Theater 3000 cut of it, and that's what I watched. Because when I was watching it, I'm like, this isn't what I remember, except for like a couple random scenes. And I will say, this is like at the end of the movie, but I wrote this note down where I said, while I think this is obviously a cheap, strange, and far from great movie, I actually think it's one of the overall better films to be on Mystery Science Theater 3000. Like, compared to some of the schlock that they have watched on that show, this is like a watchable movie. Like, I would rewatch this. I would make other people watch this.
Now, let's be fair. That's not...
Yeah, that's
that
not high
big
of a bar.
badge of honor. Yeah.
Scott, this was your pick, right? This is coveted.
This has been
like
a long time coming.
Yeah, let's talk about just the journey of even getting to Devilfish.
Because if Matt thought he saw it on Netflix, where the fuck did you even think that you came across Devilfish?
This was, oh man, I mean, I think this was one of those days deep diving in Wikipedia about obscure, or maybe just, you know, like some listicle thing about obscure aquatic horror.
It could even have been, Scott, I'm willing to throw out there that it could have been, for a very long time, every time that we covered a Jaws, what was considered a Jaws ripoff, I would read the full list of what is on IMDb's list of Jaws ripoffs, and this is on there. So it could have even been just one of the many times I've read that you on your own thought, what the fuck is Devilfish? And then looked it up
could have been
yourself
that,
from there.
for sure. Now, this, I know I was hyping it up earlier on in the spring, like, okay, we're going to go to Creature Feature Weekend and VHSPS is going to have it. Didn't have it. I think I cut that conversation from the episode because I was editing the episode after Creature and we didn't
Feature,
find it.
and I was aware that we did not in fact find it. So I was like, well, this is less charming and fun knowing the fact that we couldn't find this fucking movie.
Well, the charm is that I found a copy of it through questionable means, and I could not have been happier because this movie is so fun. This movie has...
The picture quality of what you found is also shockingly
really
great.
I mean, I'm wondering if this is a cleaned up version. This is not a VHS rip. It's definitely I think it's a Blu-ray rip.
No, so upon further review, there was a Blu-ray of it, and I think that Severin put it out.
Okay.
Or no, Kino Lorber put it out. And Kino Lorber is not known for stuff that's like this. Like, Bava stuff is put out definitely by other folks, but I think that the disc has gone out of print since then. But Kino Lorber put it out. And I don't think we've ever
used that phrase. I don't think Kino Lorber has ever come up in conversation on this show. It's always Vinegar Syndrome. It's always Severin.
Right. No, it really is. So
Criterion
it's
has come up before Kino Lorber,
which is crazy because when the Kino sale comes up once a year or twice a year, whenever it is, their horror and exploitation and cult section it really does fill in the blanks of everybody else. Like I picked up Gowanna Cult of the Damned, which is like the horror exploitation narrative retelling of Jonestown, right? Like they put out shit like that, where it's just like it doesn't really quite belong anywhere else. But then they'll put out like Paul Schrader's Hardcore, which did I talk about watching that on this show?
Maybe.
Okay.
The name is just too forgettable. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, they came out. So it's a great rip of this movie, and I knew this movie was going to absolutely kill in the first 2 minutes.
Was this this is our first watch, all of us, right?
All first watch.
Yeah, well, unless I watched it on Netflix.
Right.
Yes. But like that wouldn't have been an actual watch.
No, I think this was all first watch, which was very exciting because it finally happened.
What a great monster, by the way.
An insanely great monster, and it never looked the same twice. It felt like the Cloverfield monster.
Yeah,
like it never quite looked the same every time.
I was gonna say we never get a good full-on shot of this monster, and like the crazy thing is like this movie is something where I would make someone watch this, and then I'd make them watch a movie like Sharktopus. And I would be like, you see why practical is better? Like you see,
well, this is the original
why
Sharktopus.
The mystery of practical makes things just like a little bit more endearing and exciting than seeing a CGI'd half shark, half octopus just fucking like crawl its way up onto the beach and like just eat people, and it feels like nothing.
It always swims. It never crawls. But this is also let's clear the air here. Let's clear the water.
Yeah.
This is not a shark octopus. It's not a sharktopus. It is a Dunkleosteus octopus hybrid with regenerative abilities, which, I mean, last week had regenerative abilities because it was a flatworm. This is kind of Reptilicus Part 3 for this show. It's happening a lot.
Yes, it is.
Also, did you guys catch in the intro credits that it's Lamberto Bava, but he's John Old Jr.
John Old Jr.,
He's credited as John Old Jr., which is like the dumbest fucking pseudonym I think we've ever covered.
It's so funny when all the Italian directors and producers throw in their pseudonym. I don't know the reason. There has to be a good reason. Maybe not.
No,
but there's some sort of
they're
reason.
Italians. They don't have to have a reason that matters.
Luigi Cozzi is who did Contamination and a couple other things. He's the producer on here, and I was like, when I saw that name, and then when I saw that it was Lamberto Bava, I was like, this is going to be an Italian B masterpiece.
Yeah.
And it was.
And there's so much weird murder in it. Like
so much weird murder.
Well, let's talk about. So I jokingly wrote this note, but then I got sincere where I said, "Man, why is Scott always picking these movies where naked women are being attacked by home invaders?" Because that's definitely way more of me picking those movies. but
yeah, that got really exploitative in that spot, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
But then it makes up for it in that last 5 minutes.
Here's the thing that baffles me in that whole sequence, right? He comes in, he chokes the woman to death, and then it appears like he's trying to not make it look like she was murdered. And his way of doing that is putting her in the already filled bathtub, and then
which is filled with green water. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I caught that the watercolor was weird. But then he like throws the hairdryer in it and electrocutes her. And I found myself thinking, like, wouldn't you make it seem more like an accident if she just, I don't know, you pushed her underwater and it feels like she fell asleep and slipped or something?
Well, the weirder thing is that he strangles her to death. He dumps her in the bathtub. He plugs in the hairdryer, drops it in to electrocute her, though the fact of the matter is there are still going to be ligature marks on her neck. Anyway, he then unplugs the hair dryer so that he can steal her panties.
Yeah. Well, because why would she be
in.
getting into the bathtub with her panties on? That would be outrageous.
Oh, I thought he was just a fucking pervert.
No,
I did too.
No, he was trying to make it. That's what I mean. He was trying to make it feel like a believable accidental death or suicide.
We've watched too many of these things where that's not the choice. That's not the choose your own adventure choice that happens. That's smart. That's smart filmmaking.
Because everybody knows that if someone's going to commit suicide in a bathtub with a hairdryer, they have to at least be prepared as if they were taking an actual bath in that moment.
Yes.
Right. Or even or even accidental or whatever. Like, oh my god,
the logical leaps
so
that Matt misses when he is like off topic, and the logical leaps that we miss. So different.
So different. They are different calibers.
So did y'all see the interesting casting choice when it came to the victims of the devilfish, which is that they just casted anyone who was an amputee to play the victims of this devilfish. And we literally kicked this movie off with an armless, legless body being airlifted out of the ocean.
It's tight.
And
after
I was like,
the rescue
what a way to
divers
start
jump
this movie.
in screaming.
The
rescue divers jump in and go,
to jump in. That was where I knew that we were going to get a realistic creature feature.
Yeah. Well, in the camera, like, I have to say, one of the things I liked pretty early on is the camera shots and angles are just absolutely bonkers.
They're so Italian, man. This is spaghetti.
There's like close-up, low-angle nonsense so many times in this movie. Or like my favorite shot in the movie is behind Kyle for the people watching on Patreon. It's the inside the monster's mouth attack.
Yeah.
It's just like
and
so
good. If I was gonna get murdered by a creature, kill me in anything besides a snorkeling mask. That's like, do not kill me in a snorkeling mask.
Let me take it off first. Please.
He looks like he's wearing clown makeup. I know it's a mask because I watched the movie, but God, he looks stupid.
The music throughout I was a fan of. Whether it's this like synth opening song that rips, whether it's this very synthy Jaws ripoff in the one scene where it's like dun 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 dun. It's like what is legally not the Jaws theme, but like conveys the emotions.
It's all right. It's close enough.
But then there's also like, I wish I wrote down the lyrics. When we first meet the one guy's like coworker / sort of lover, and she's playing video games.
She's in on it.
Yeah. She's in on it. She's an inside woman. But she's like listening to music while playing a video game, and it is like the craziest song that she's listening to. Like, I just want to be like, what is this song about? Because the lyrics were all over the goddamn place.
God, no, this movie is Italian through and through. It has misogyny. It has amputees. It has insane lines. It has.
Do you think I'm doing this because Stella has a cute ass? Because you're right.
That's exactly right. And then the girl goes, "Would you kindly tell me what's wrong with mine?"
And then she kisses him. Just goes in for the kiss.
It works.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
Ladies, take notes.
My favorite one was when this dude, this amputee who was in the coma, this one-armed man in the coma.
When it became that he was in a coma and not just dead on a table, I was shocked.
Right, and then
not as shocked as he was when we got defibbed, but you know.
She was like, "Get the adrenaline," and he's fucking defibbing him. It fails, and he just goes, "It was fear. Fear stopped his heart." It was like, I've not been afraid. Nobody's been afraid of anything yet. I love so much when the Italians really mimic, because this one felt like it knew what it was doing. Do you know what I mean? Like this one felt like it was very tongue-in-cheek, or like those things had humor. They have, they know what the rip is, and they know where they can make it a little funny, but then also still tell the story. And that was one of the biggest things for me. It was like, come on, you guys, like, but it makes it very enjoyable for me. Like, that's what keeps the pace up for me, as opposed to, like, that's why I don't agree with you, Matt. Like, not that it doesn't matter, but it's just,
right.
I just couldn't, this is the type of shit. This is the shit that I'm like, yes, like let's just throw in something to just throw me off my game. And if I have to like hustle to get back into it, like I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
No, I think listen. Totally
and I think it's fair that what you're saying. I just am not. Of that
yeah,
same
you disagree. It's all right. Matt's not gonna. You're not hurting Matt's feelings.
Yeah, I am.
It's
fine.
a sensitive orchid.
But no, I mean it just, I was like hitting this point where I'm like, I just want to see more of the creature. Like I love that they just show us like bits and pieces of it. Like it's kind of like a build your own creature. Like you just have to assemble what the full thing looks like from the random pieces that you get to see. Cause like there's some shots where it looks like it has like a piranha type face. Like,
well, if you look up the Dunkleosteus, it's an armored fish, and it's so like that's what I thought was so cool about it, is that they went very specific. It wasn't a shark with octopus legs. It was a reanimated or it was basically a Jurassic Parked dinosaur that they spliced with an octopus for no reason other than just because it would be evil. And then they sprinkled in some more sci-fi with it, that somehow one of the doctors figured out that its entire body is going to disintegrate in 12 hours, and each one of those cells is going to become a new devil shark, and it's going to take over the oceans. Fantastic. I loved it so much. And so they're like, okay, we just have to burn it to death. And so then they go out into the Everglades, they find it. And first of all, the size of this monster is awesome because it really could bite you in half, and it does not care about it doesn't care about coming up and chomping on you like something like the Last Shark or any one of the Jaws ripoffs that we've discussed on this show. It will like grab you with its its tentacles. It'll pull you in. It'll chomp off your head or your legs or whatever. It does not give a shit. And that was so fun to me because it doesn't have to like dive and surface. It's just kind of there, and it can just hit you wherever. And it doesn't have a dorsal fin. There's no telling when it's going to show up. It's just so fun because it's kind of like more like of a serial killer.
It swims like an octopus, and it feels like it has.
And it's smart like an octopus.
Well, and I love the explanation of like this fish has everything. It really did though. Like it was like as smart as a dolphin, and like it was very fun. A very fun creature. I think that my biggest gripe with it, besides just not being able to see it all the time, was that it felt like it was only tentacles. I know I'm like literally in a scene where somebody got bit, but the tentacles seemed to be the big thing. And
it's easier to show those.
But I like how they were utilized. Like the scene where he attacks the couple at night on the boat, I think I'm like, this scene is perfect. Like it is no notes, perfectly handled. So this is not my double feature, but I've talked about it before that there was this TV movie, I want to say in 96, called The Beast, based on the Peter Benchley novel of the same name, about a giant squid attacking a small town. And like even then with like the kind of shoddy 1996 CGI tentacles, they would also try to use real tentacles where they practical ones where they could. But anytime that it was like happening at night, there's something fucking scary about being on a boat in like surrounded by this dark water and a fucking tentacle comes out at you. Like that shit is scary because I feel like it literally, I mean, I don't go on the water, period. And I certainly don't at nighttime. But like, I think that is like shit your pants paralyzed with fear. If you're just like on the boat and a fucking tentacle comes up at you, like you're not going to run.
Smart.
Yeah, you're not going to even think to run because you're just going to be so taken aback by like what is happening. Octopi, don't they have a brain in each tentacle, basically?
Yeah,
is that
essentially
so that's
kind of what it's been? Yeah, essentially.
They're like, as far as comparing it to what human anatomy is.
You ever watch a video of like an octopus on a boat escape through a crack in the corner?
Listen,
I'm like, this is insane.
Eat calamari anymore. I got too high one time when I was trying to eat calamari, and I thought about that shit, and I've I've stayed away. Like, and this
whatever
has been,
it takes to bring it to the fold, buddy. Good job.
Yeah, dude, I know you're proud of me, Scott.
Yeah, Scott, be proud of me. I don't like seafood at all.
Matt doesn't want to go anywhere near any body of water for any reason at all.
I don't trust any of it. The closest thing to seafood I have is occasionally New England clam chowder, and baby, that's for the cream and not for the clam.
You just eat the cream and potatoes. You leave the clams at the bottom.
Matt's like,
what do you mean these crackers are made of oysters? Fuck that.
have you seen Blood Beach?
We're making an ad.
Napping ad.
This is where I think if we're doing it right, Alec Baldwin comes in. He says a couple things. He listens to the podcast every week. Yep. Has he been canceled? Wait, is Alec Baldwin the one who killed somebody? I hear that Gary Sinise is free.
Oh, okay, great.
He hasn't worked since 2020.
So, what would be the script that we would have Gary Sinise say for the Napping Through Happy Hour podcast?
Listen to this damn show. Damn it.
The Napping Through Happy Hour podcast brought to you by Geekscape.
Real life, real drama, real time.
I'm Gary Sinise.
That's the ad. That's the ad. That's the ad.
We're here to entertain you. We'll sing your song.
Hey there. Are you obsessed with things that happened before your time? Well, if you are, join me, the host of Before My Time, Kelsey Laurie, to discuss the wonders of the yesteryears that we weren't around to enjoy ourselves. You can find us on all podcast platforms.
Dixieland's a playing, soon you'll be swaying, so come on, sing along.
91 Donkey Lane is a magical apartment complex that contains immense power but lacks intelligent inhabitants.
What is happening?
I'm getting texts.
Why are we getting a lot of texts?
People found out what we did.
Oh, dividing Mike Myers into an infinite amount of tiny Mike Myers?
Listen to 91 Donkey Lane for free on Spotify or your favorite podcasting app. More at 91donkeylane.com. See you there, you donkeys.
So here's the thing. Watching this reminded me of a movie that I probably won't pick for this show because it's not very fun. It stars John Saxon, mostly cop procedural, but it's very Italian like this. Nightmare Beach.
We watched it last week, sir, but...
But yeah, I think it's also called Welcome to Spring Break. But Nightmare Beach, it's a slasher wearing a fucking motorcycle outfit. It is also one of those movies where, Kyle, you were talking about how you're like, this movie kept me guessing because it doesn't really follow the plot beats that you're expecting. Welcome to Spring Break / Nightmare Beach is very similar. Pretty bombastic ending. The Italians, when they get their B-horror right, it is untouchably fun.
It's untouchable.
It's not good, but it's untouchably fun. But this movie is a definite like cheese fest. That's my kind of cheese fest. I will absolutely save a copy of this, rewatch it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. All right. Well, unless we have anything else to say, Scott, I would love to know what your double feature with Devilfish / Monster Shark would be.
I am sorry in advance because I feel like I am kind of pulling the rug out from Matt in particular, but Deep Star 6 because Diplodon, also known as the Eurypterid monster. I had to look that up and write it down. Can you imagine those guys fighting?
Oh, yeah, that's the kaiju mashup movie that I want to see.
That's what I need.
Sure.
And also, if Matt's upset about not seeing enough of the devilfish, he gets it in spades in Deep Star 6 because they show that monster so much, and it's so great.
For good reason. They were very proud of that practical.
Yes. Well,
Kyle, I'll let you go because I still have two written down for double feature options.
All right.
So.
I just went Jaws 2. I think that like Jaws 2 kind of does the things in a more traditional American cinema thing that I wanted, that Devilfish does. You know what I mean? I think that's my go-to, and it works well with my beer too. My beer goes with also my double feature, which is always a nice bonus.
So what I had actually written down as one of my options was Jaws 3D. I thought Jaws 3D kind of fits this a little bit more.
It does, yeah,
because it's more
I've not
schlocky.
seen 3D. I've wanted to see 3D.
If you had seen 3D, you would have went with it because
Pick 3D.
because there's a lot of like people working with dolphins sequences in Jaws 3D.
A lot.
But I mean, I think the obvious one, we mentioned it earlier, The Last Shark, baby. Like, like the complete other spectrum of bad Italian B movie, like just a paper mache shark just chomping dummies in half. Like,
I would have the best night watching both of those.
Oh,
you know,
yes.
like
I mean, that's what we're here for.
I think that I just wanted just a quick point about dolphins. I was watching.
Won't eat them either.
No. I was just watching this woman that when we get introduced to the lead, who's the not Janet, but the other woman who's with us the whole time, whose name I completely forgot.
Yeah.
The
I was so
tall,
sad when
slender
Janet got
one.
killed.
Well, dude, poor Janet. Janet had a hell of a time. She got called to fly down to wherever the fuck to give a presentation, an unexpected presentation, and then she gets attacked and sees her friend die from this tentacle monster, and then she just gets really unceremoniously killed by
Shot in the back
big,
twice.
like dude,
So dumb.
such a bummer. Like all
Hate
for
to see
what?
it.
All for what? The devilfish? But the thing about the dolphins is I was just watching this woman communicate with the dolphins, and of course it's also dubbed, so it adds this layer. But I'm just like, you know, we are not communicating on the same levels as these dolphins, and like just because they can do a trick because we do this thing does not mean that we understand a lick of what's going on with them, and I just hate that it was presented as such. Nothing against marine biologists. I'm sure they will figure it out, but this was not a marine biologist. This was an Italian movie, and it was very bad. And I was just like, man, this sucks. All right, anyway, that's my note about dolphins.
Well, you know, let's run it down. We did this last week. We'll run it down again. Email us your listener submitted movie ideas, hmnpodcast@gmail.com. I'm going to say the cutoff of that is July 29th. By July 29th, we need to know them so we can start preparing to record and do all that fun stuff. Also, while you've got our email address of hmnpodcast@gmail.com, if you want to be a member of our newsletter, shoot us an email. We'll add you to the list. It's a free newsletter. It's just a way to keep up to date on what have we talked about, find out, you know, what Kyle's been up to. We'll do little essays and just, it'll be fun. We've been doing it with the Patreon for a while. We're going to expand it a little bit. And then lastly, hey, come and meet me at San Diego Comic-Con, July 24th to the 28th. I'll be there with Katie Hampton and Marie Brand of the Napping Through Happy Hour podcast, Matt Milligan of Weird Algorithm, as well as Joe and Joshua from Fright School and Shane O'Hare from Dynamic Resolution. So it'll be a nice little Geekscape party going for all of that. And then on the East Coast, we're going to be doing the Geekscape East coverage at RetroCon on September 7th and 8th. I do have confirmation that Gary and James from Monster Rally podcast will be there with me. I'm still waiting to hear back from some of the other Geekscapists from the Philly, Jersey, Delaware region, but you know, hopefully you'll see like the Jersey Ghouls and the Bingetown TV folks joining me for that event. And now, Scott, what have you been watching, buddy? What do you want to talk about?
I have two albums that I want to talk about. So I'm going to start with things that you guys might like, and then I'm going to do the thing that I like. I mean, I like them both, but the thing that's just for me. So I'm going to start with a terrible band name, Eat Defeat. But it's spelled Defeat. Their new record came out mid-May, I want to say it was, and it's called My Money's on Me. Now, I enjoyed it. They're from the UK. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it more as I was going along because I'm so confounded by how they got to where their sound is because these are the bands that they remind me of. And for listeners, if you don't know these bands, it's fine because you're not fucking 40 and neither are these guys. So they remind me of Gob.
Okay.
And The Anniversary mixed with Ozma. It is the weirdest mix of... And then there's also some there's a little bit of old Neck Deep in there, but that's because Neck Deep is also a UK band. It's just so weird because Gob, that record, For the Moment, I think is the name of the record. It's The Story According to Gob or whatever. That record is from 1999 or 2000. That's not something that's still in the zeitgeist, right?
I don't think it was really in the zeitgeist in 1999 when it was released.
It was an underground hit. Ozma was Weezer put in a blender with Weezer. It's like Weezer on speed, or not on speed, but it's like the most Weezer. Nobody remembers Ozma, and The Anniversary, Designing a Nervous Breakdown, came out, and I want to say 2000, and it was in that subgenre of pop punk and indie pop music that was dual male female vocals with Moog, with synth. Nobody remembers that record. If anybody remembers The Anniversary, they probably remember Your Majesty, which was the record after that before they broke up. And so that was when they went more like Isley, and they were doing the kind of indie rock stuff I think they kind of stopped using the synth and they were using just guitars and the dual vocals. Very strange. The mix of bands for them, but really fun record. Eat Defeat, My Money's on Me.
I just want to throw this out. I want to throw this out before you talk about that second album, just in the name of promoting other shows on the network. If you haven't checked it out, Geekscape episode 963, the Hollywood geek rock scene of the 90s and 2000s. That's the name of the episode. There's a book out. Literally, it's called Generation Blue, the oral history of the Hollywood geek rock scene. And John sat down with the two people who wrote it, and that includes the lead singer of Rydell High and the original guitarist for Weezer, Jason Cropper, who quit the band just before the Blue album came out. He's often referred to as the Pete Best of the geek rock scene. But he does have a writing credit because he wrote the opening acoustic guitar riff to My Name is Jonas. So that's his...
Gotcha.
He gets those royalties, I guess. But it's a great conversation. They talk a lot about the Ozma, Weezer relationship. Specifically, the guy from Rydell High is I remember those dudes being 16, coming to shows and being in the front row singing every song and saying we're working on a band, and being yeah, kid, that's great. But what's the album that's more just for daddy up there?
It is called To Conquer Eternal Damnation, and it is from Darkness Everywhere, which is it's Gothenburg influenced melodic death metal. So if you like At the Gates or old In Flames or bands like that, you're gonna like this record. It is Ben Murray and I think his name's Ben Murray or Ben Murphy. It's Ben from Light the City. He was the drummer and primary songwriter for Light the City. He wrote this record with some other guys, and it's basically Light the City, but with him on guitar and vocals instead of drums. They actually have Laura Nichols, who was the lead singer of Light the City, on for one of the songs. It is fantastic American melodic death metal. No clean singing. Every song is fast as fuck. The riffs are so tasty. Highly recommend if you like melodic death metal. Absolutely check it out. Darkness Everywhere, To Conquer Eternal Damnation.
All right. I'm going to do a very quick shout out to a movie that I watched, and I'm not going to say too much about it because it's skyrocketed onto the Matt's pick list, which is that I watched the Blu-ray of Killer Crocodile. Are we going to talk about Killer Crocodile at some point. But instead, what I wanted to talk about was a book that I just cruised through. And a couple years ago, you may have remembered me talking at length about how much I loved a book called Wild and Crazy Guys that was about the history of 70s comedy by Nick I'm going to go ahead and try this name. Nick DeSamalian. I hope I got that right. Sorry if not. He finally has put out his follow-up book called The Last Action Heroes. That's about the history of Hollywood action films in the late 80s leading into the early 90s. So with Wild and Crazy Guys, he basically kept jumping from the perspectives of Eddie Murphy, John Belushi, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Steve Martin in that time period. This one, it's jumping between Steven Seagal, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Chuck Norris, and the most interesting chapters are when it brings up Jackie Chan, because Jackie Chan was very much not part of the Hollywood scene until like the mid to late 90s, but it was following how he kept coming to America and attempting to do these American movies and getting frustrated at the fact that everything needed to be like these other guys' movies. And then he would go back to Hong Kong and make his own movies. And Stallone was kind of the biggest champion of him, to the point that they tell a story where Jackie Chan got a letter in the mail from Sylvester Stallone inviting him to the Cliffhanger preview screening. And he's like, I've never met this guy. Like, I don't know why I got invited to it. And it was because Stallone borrowed so many stunt scenes from Jackie Chan movies that he wanted in person to, like, A, thank him for the inspiration, and, like, B, essentially ask for forgiveness. And then that's kind of what, like, got Jackie Chan on the American scene, was that, like, Sylvester Stallone wouldn't stop bringing him up in interviews for Cliffhanger. Like, everything that we do is nothing because this guy does it for real. Like, we have stunt doubles. This guy is his stunt double. Like, you have to watch his movies. So just a great read. And I'm not even like that much of an action movie guy. Like, I like my action movies super dumb. You know what I mean? Like Demolition Man, like right up my fucking alley. Yeah. And like on the Patreon, we did Speed. That's kind of like the book ends with these guys essentially realizing that, like, the days of people wanting to see this roided up, like, guy is gone, and people want the everyday heroes. They want the, like, Keanu Reeves action star where it's like, I don't know, like, Keanu Reeves might not get out of this one, guys. like that's like what people want to pay money to see way more than, like, when you see Schwarzenegger fighting a bunch of henchmen, you're kind of like, yeah. Who's going to win this fight? The 90-pound henchman or the guy who looks like he's two tanks that wish to be a real boy?
Right. The one with a certificate or the one with a lifelong, like, exactly. This is what I do for a living.
Exactly.
Yeah. That is such a neat, I mean, we live in a horror world, like, talk about a niche, but, like, that specific world and how much money it made was so, and how much money it still makes is so niche.
That's like, the other thing that's kind of crazy to put into perspective is, like,
it's a wild corner of Hollywood.
It's a crazy corner of Hollywood because you're looking at, like, Canon Pictures stayed afloat strictly because of making, like, these Chuck Norris, Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren movies where they could make a film with a budget of like $5 million that no matter how unknown some of the stars were, it was going to make like 10 times that when it got released theatrically, just because there was like an appetite for it that, like, is such a far, like, I could not, if you put a gun to my head and said, name a Chuck Norris film, I'd maybe be able to say, like, Missing in Action and Invasion USA, and then be out of ideas. And this is a dude who's probably done like 40 movies that are all like successful financial hits that are just like completely in a whole other world that I've just never experienced.
Yeah. No, it is truly a wild portion. So that book sounds super interesting.
It's so fun. And Kyle, let's wrap it up with you, my dude.
I've been going back and forth on whether or not I was going to reveal this. But it feels like a really good time, and it feels like a safe space. The listeners, I think, will get a kick out of it. And it's actually taken up so much of my time that I've not watched anything. Not in a negative way. I can do this hobby while I'm working on other things. But it's taken the place of me watching something for self-care. I started a TikTok called Main Menu Loops. which I can't remember if we had mentioned it on a Patreon or
it was on the Final Destination episode.
Oh, okay.
I talked about the Final Destination loop being absolutely insane, and then we got onto a whole conversation about it.
So I pulled the trigger on it. I closed Horror Finds. I started main menu loops. They are not necessarily an even trade-off. Don't tell Carly. They're not. But it's been a lot of fun. At the recording of this, I was away for a weekend, and I posted the hostel menu, and the hostel menu has reached over 1 million plays, which is absolutely absurd to me.
Yeah.
As I'm telling you this, listeners and co-hosts, one, Matt has helped me out immensely already and has been going through his DVD collection, has been great. Scott has been a champion of this to me, which makes me feel good because I'm like, this feels dumb. But I certainly don't think, I mean, this is really just like a very fun, like, once or twice a day I'll hit post and then go do my shit now. But I've been archiving a lot of stuff. So if you are into digital archivism,
Yeah,
archival stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. If you're into that world and love a little bit of nostalgia on your TikTok feed, main menu loops is something that I'm really enjoying. I'm not like putting my or our name out there yet. I don't know if I will. This is still very young. It was really crazy that Hostel took off.
It was, as someone who feels very much having a stake in this project, even just by like working through as many DVD menu rips as I can each week, like logging every time I go on TikTok, the first thing I do is click into the DVD menu thing and see like what have you posted and like how much growth has happened. And like even today, I just checked now, 400 more people started following from earlier this afternoon when I checked. Like, it's so crazy to see.
And I don't know how long it'll last. I might be saying this now, and it might not exist. There's a world in which this does not last long, at least in this format.
Sure.
But the archiving of these things and the response that we've gotten has been very cool. I think that our listeners will really enjoy it. It's not all horror, like there's a bunch of other stuff in there. There's a bunch of like older films. There's some like rom-coms. There's some cult classic stuff. Like, and it's only gonna get weirder. You know what I mean? Like I know there's a finite thing. There's a finite stopping point, but it's impossible for us to get to that point. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's
not with two people.
No, right. So I'm just gonna kind of keep doing it, and I hope that you enjoy it. And I eventually will talk to you about something that I've watched and can recommend. But it's half promotional, but also like if anybody's gonna like it, it's the listeners.
I can't express how much I love this TikTok enough. Like I will click in and just read the comments, and you get, first of all, I feel like every video has people throwing recommendations of DVD menus from their memories. But there's also people, like, there are so many comments that are just like, this is the greatest TikTok account that's ever. Like, there are so many comments that are just
awesome.
Like, this is amazing.
It's awesome.
Like,
it's fun.
And this literally was like, you mentioned it on the Final Destination episode, and then I think we really talked about it at Creature Feature.
Yeah.
Like, heavily. Yeah. We were like, I think you should do this. I can help. Like, I can rip. I have the ability to rip it. And it's so funny because Kyle, while he was away, was just getting text messages from me where I was like, I read every comment and grabbed whatever DVDs I had that was requested. And then I would just sit down here for like 2 hours and just rip these. And unfortunately, people request kids movies, which the negative to that is the one downside is the DVD player that I have to do the ripping doesn't have a remote anymore. So I have to sit through like 12 minutes of commercials before the menu comes up.
Yeah, that's tough. Well, listen, when we're making that TikTok money, Matt, we can get you a new DVD player with a remote.
No, listen, these people made trailers and they
Xbox.
deserve to be seen.
I killed my old Xbox doing this. I could not. I did about like 50, and it was. I mean, it's an original Xbox, so it's like it was not in great
But
shape.
you gave it the red ring, and it.
I fucked that thing up, dude. So I had to go. I had to go find a DVD player, and there was one at this antique store. I may keep my eye open. If I can get like a $20 DVD player that has a remote, I may buy it just to speed this shit up. Game changer. Game changer.
Time is money.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
but that's my little tidbit. Go check it out. Main menu loops.
Speaking about time being money, they spent plenty of time and very little money on Devilfish, and we will be back next week to talk about I think actually like a bigger budgeted movie. So stay tuned for what happens when a studio gives you a lot of money and not a lot of time.
We're making an ad.
Napping ad.
This is where I think if we're doing it right, Alec Baldwin comes in. He says a couple things. He listens to the podcast every week. Yep. Has he been canceled? Wait, is Alec Baldwin the one who killed somebody? I hear that Gary Sinise is free.
Oh, okay, great.
He hasn't worked since 2020.
So, what would be the script that we would have Gary Sinise say for the Napping Through Happy Hour podcast?
Listen to this damn show. Damn it.
The Napping Through Happy Hour podcast brought to you by Geekscape.
Real life, real drama, real time.
I'm Gary Sinise.
That's the ad. That's the ad. That's the ad.
We're here to entertain you. We'll sing your song.
Hey there. Are you obsessed with things that happened before your time? Well, if you are, join me, the host of Before My Time, Kelsey Laurie, to discuss the wonders of the yesteryears that we weren't around to enjoy ourselves. You can find us on all podcast platforms.
Soon you'll be swaying, so come on, sing along.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.